Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to Still in Progress, and I'm your host, Cindy. I'm currently an MD PhD student in New York City, and my main thing on social media is I run a YouTube channel talking about my experiences as well as offer admissions advice. This podcast, on the other hand, it's just a little fun, a little silly. It's a space for us to connect on a more personal level. Sometimes it'll be me, sometimes it'll be with a friend, but it's really just a casual space where I talk about anything that's on my mind that week. And today I'm going to be talking about my birthday, which was yesterday. It will be a little bit later when you're hearing this episode, but I turned 29 yesterday. And I just want to talk a little bit about that because I had so much fun. It was such a perfect, awesome, beautiful day. And yeah, so starting off a little bit with kind of my thoughts and perspectives about birthdays, which is mostly along the lines of that birthdays for me, for the most part, is just another day. I know people who, take a whole month to celebrate their birthday. It's not their birthday, it's their birthday month. I'm not like that. I think birthdays are just another day for me. I'm happy to celebrate my friends if they want to do a whole birthday month situation, but for me, it's kind of like business as usual. And I think partially that's just because birthdays were never really like a big deal for me or my family when we were growing up. I think we kind of phased out the whole gifts thing by the time we were in our preteens. And then, they were just kind of like treated as another day. Of course, my parents wish me happy birthday. My mom tells me the story of my birth every year on my birthday, which does get a little repetitive, but I still find it very sweet. But I did turn 29 this year, so I've heard this story quite a few times. But yeah, like birthdays being just another day, like at least for me, is not something that I find to be sad. I don't know, it's just like another year around the sun. And I also think it was funny because I don't really tell people that it's my birthday, but it was my birthday, and some people did find out. They wished me happy birthday. And then, of course, there's always the question of how does it feel now that you're 29? Like, you're so old. I don't know. The 22 and 23-year-olds now think 29-year-old me is ancient, which, I mean, comparatively, yes, I am older, but I still feel super, super young. Like, something about being in school, not being married, not having kids, really just keeps you in that kind of collegiate mindset. And I sometimes still feel like I'm, fresh out of college, but then I actually speak to someone who is still in college. Like I actually speak to someone in undergrad and I'm like, oh, the lingo has completely changed. They think I'm super old and that's fine. And so given that birthdays are not a huge, huge deal for me, usually my default kind of plans is either to do nothing or I get one friend together or I get a small group of friends together and we go get dinner. I don't think in recent years any of my friends have actually allowed me to do nothing, which tends to be my, I guess, tendencies. I'm actually a super, super introverted person and I love my alone time. A lot of people in my life actually tell me they can't see me as an introvert because I'm usually pretty bubbly and I talk to people and I do enjoy social interactions in like school and workplaces, but I am super introverted. And if you ask me to tell you about my ideal day, it would definitely just be spending time alone by myself. And this year I did opt for a group dinner together. Last year I actually just ended up getting dinner with my best friend because I didn't really want to put something together, send out all the invites and everything. But the year before that, I had kind of a bigger brunch with a slightly bigger group of friends. So now I'm going to talk about kind of the 3 high points of my birthday day. And so table the dinner because that's one of the points and I'll get to that in a second. So I started my day catching a Wobbuffet, a girl Wobbuffet in Pokemon Sleep, which, okay, I've been super into Pokemon Sleep lately. I know it's kind of like an old game, as in like it's not recently released, but I downloaded it 5 days ago. And if you don't know what Pokemon Sleep is, it's basically this app where I guess the basic premise is that you track your sleep and you kind of progress the game through good sleep habits. But I thought everything around the game, the premise, the objectives, etc., is super, super well thought out. So in this game, you're actually a Pokemon sleep researcher and you progress your research through tracking your sleep and sleeping well and things like that. And so what happens is you can move through these islands, and on each island, there's a Snorlax. And the Snorlax has something called snoozy power. And you upgrade your Snorlax and you make the Snorlax more powerful by sleeping, like in real life. Now, why do you want your Snorlax to have good snoozy power? Is because you want Pokemon to come by and snooze next to your Snorlax. And then you can do research on the Pokemon that fall asleep because you're a Pokemon researcher. And you get to check what Pokemons have like come to the island every morning. And then you do your research basically. And you can also befriend Pokemon to be on your team. And then those Pokemon can help your Snorlax level up and things like that. And again, like everything is dependent on the sleep quality that you had the night before, etc., etc. It kind of just gamifies sleeping, but I think it's super fun, super cute. And the best part is you can just have cute Pokemon on your team and you don't have to worry about optimizing stats or types and things like that as you would in a normal Pokemon game. But anyways, on the morning of my birthday, I was able to befriend an Eevee who is so cute and a girl Wobbuffet. Okay, so if you didn't know, Pokemon can be male or female, but usually you can't tell until you go into the stats after you've caught them and see like if they're male or female. There are Pokemon that have different appearances, but to me, a casual kind of player, the most obvious one is the Wobbuffet because the girl Wobbuffet has lipstick, which I think is so silly and so cute. And I did see a guy Wobbuffet the day before, and I didn't befriend him to add him to my team. But when I saw the girl Wobbuffet, I was like, oh my gosh, she has to join my team. So I caught her and it was just such a great start to my day. And by the way, this is not an ad for Pokemon Sleep or anything. I've just really been enjoying the game. I think it's so cute. And it actually makes me really excited to wake up each morning because I get to check what cute little Pokemon have fallen asleep next to my Snorlax. And so that was kind of the beginning of my birthday day. And the second highlight of my day was I actually had a really good Spanish class. This isn't something I've necessarily talked a lot about on my channel. I did film like vlogs when I went to Spain and I talked about doing a language exchange and a homestay. But in the last year or so, I've been, taking Spanish pretty seriously and learning the language pretty seriously, partially because living in New York, it's just a really good skill to be able to have. And my medical school is located in an area where there's a really high percentage of Spanish speaking patients. And so, like, for example, when I go to clinic, maybe 1 out of every 3 patients or more would be Spanish speaking. And I just really have wanted to be able to communicate with them, even on like a casual basis. And actually, like, even after just 1 year of learning this language and taking it pretty seriously, I've found that I can pretty much understand almost everything that my patients are saying to me. Of course, I still call a translator because I feel like my way of asking questions and conveying medical information is not strong. However, it's so very rewarding to start to make some small talk with my patients when they first come in and, for example, introduce myself and just casually chat without feeling completely just frozen. So on that note, I have been taking Spanish classes to prepare for the DELE exam, which is, I guess it's a certificate exam to certify your level in Spanish. Usually people take this exam because they plan on moving to a Spanish-speaking country or they're planning on going to university in a Spanish-speaking country. Me personally, I don't need it for anything. I'm kind of just taking it as a personal challenge and as a way to level up my language skills and work on reading, writing, speaking, listening all at once and in a, I guess, kind of systematic way. And I've also been feeling a little bit stagnant in my progress as of late. They call this the intermediate purgatory in language learning, and I've very much been feeling like I've been stuck in intermediate purgatory. But since working on the DELE and also meeting some fantastic teachers, I think I'm starting to break out of it. And I'm honestly just someone who's very excited and happy when I get to learn things and when I get to learn something new, when I feel like I'm improving. So yeah, having this feeling first thing in the morning with my teacher made me happy, especially because I think over the span of the last couple months, starting from like December, I've just been feeling super stuck. I actually ended up switching teachers and now I have 2 amazing teachers that I found on italki, which I will link down below. One of them I actually take lessons with specifically to prep for the DELE, and the other is kind of just like general language skills. So if you want to check them out, I will link them down below. I really highly recommend them. They're fantastic. So that was my morning. I went to school after that. I just kind of had a normal day. Like I said, birthdays are pretty normal days for me. Met with my advisor, worked on my projects, and then after it all, I met up with my friends and got dinner, which is the third highlight of my day, which is the dinner I planned for my birthday with all of my friends. It was actually pretty last minute because I didn't decide to do a get-together until the Sunday before my birthday, or the Saturday before my birthday, and my birthday was on Tuesday. So basically there was a 3 days notice for all of my friends to pull through and come to dinner. And the thing about New York City friendships is that I feel like most people have plans. Like even if it's on a weeknight, a lot of people have plans on a weeknight, or they just like don't want to go somewhere or something. And so I was actually super, super grateful that almost everyone I invited showed up. And the reason why it's so late, because I'm typically not a super, super last minute person. Like if I knew I was gonna do a birthday thing, I probably would have sent out invites and things and told people about it 2 or 3 weeks before. But originally I was actually just planning on having dinner with my best friend and not doing a birthday get together. But actually my best friend really convinced me to do something because she's like, oh, is there anyone else you want to invite? Do you want to make this a bigger thing? And I really do appreciate her for that, because I feel like when it comes to these things like celebrations, big days, festivities, she definitely cares more about that than I do. I remember our first year as friends. Lunar New Year just passed, and she had called me on the first day of Lunar New Year being like, hey Cindy, like, do you want to get dinner tonight? We've got this big group. And I was like, why? Like, what's today? Like, it didn't even occur to me that it was Lunar New Year. It was just another day for me, as per usual. And she was like, oh, Cindy, it's Lunar New Year, and I knew you weren't gonna do anything. I didn't want you to feel alone, so why don't you come to dinner with us? Which, again, super, super sweet, but I honestly wouldn't have been sad either way because I didn't even know. But yeah, that's the kind of friend that she is. She loves big days. She loves New Year's. She loves celebrating. And I think her rationale for asking me if I want to make it a bigger thing and invite more people is really probably just because she wanted me to feel special on my birthday, which, I don't know, is very sweet. And so there was a total of 6 of us, so 5 friends plus me. We go to this Italian restaurant, my favorite place in the Upper West Side. And the thing about favorite places in New York is that it doesn't necessarily mean I'm a regular at this place. It just means I've been to this place more than once. Like, that's what I mean when I say, oh, this is my favorite place. And this place in particular, I've actually gone, I think, 4 times, which is a lot in my opinion for New York, because New York has so many different restaurants that if you tried one every single day, you still like wouldn't run out of restaurants. But I don't know. I like what I like. I love this place. This is where I went last year for my birthday, and so I picked it again. They sat us in a corner in the back, a little table of 6. But what I really, really liked about this and the arrangement of the table is that they didn't seat us 6 people in 2 rows. They actually sat us, I guess, in a table of 4 with 2 heads of the table, if you can imagine what that looks like. And what that did actually was allowed us to all talk to each other, which I really, really like. And it made me feel like 6 people is actually the perfect and right amount of people for just like a cozy gathering and a cozy hangout. Because if you imagine them seating us 6 people like face to face, that's probably fine. But any bigger than that, if we had 8 people, for example, it's gonna be 4 and 4. It's like, you know, somebody's not going to be a part of the conversation. Not everyone's going to be able to hear each other. And so I just feel like 6 people is perfect. It was cozy. It was nice. Everyone got to talk to each other. Everyone got to get to know each other. And yeah, the people I invited were kind of from 2 different, I guess, areas of my life. So friends from the MD PhD program, as well as friends in my PhD program who don't really have any reason to interact because in my PhD program, I'm the only MD PhD student. And so my PhD friends don't know my MD PhD friends, and my MD PhD friends don't know my PhD friends. So it was really nice for all of my friends from different contexts to interact with each other and get to know each other. Most of them have met each other at least once before from like a previous birthday thing I did. But yeah, I mean, it was just really nice. And if you cannot tell, I am still feeling so warm and fuzzy about this dinner, the friendships, my friends interacting with each other. I guess I'm just someone who, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that friendship is something that ebbs and flows over time. And it's honestly so difficult to find people who truly care about you, who truly have your back, who wants the best for you in life. And I think I'm really, really lucky to say that within my small group of friends that I was able to find these people in my life that do feel that way about me, and I feel the same way about them. And I also thought it was interesting that the group of people there at my dinner last night was kind of a mix of older friends that have been my friends for 3, 4, 5 years since the beginning of the program, as well as some new friends that I started to get closer to just this year. It also made me think about how different it was my first year here in medical school and what that birthday looked like, because that year I actually wanted to do nothing, but my anatomy lab ended up doing a small get together with me instead. We had a little potluck. One of my friends bought a cake. It said, "Happy birthday, phrenic nerve." It's kind of an inside joke because one time in anatomy lab, I really confidently said like a nerve was the phrenic nerve. And I was wrong, but it's not just wrong, but it was like very, very wrong. So wrong that I feel like it would be embarrassing if I told you what nerve I was actually pointing to. And so we'll leave it at that. It was a nickname for a little bit. It's all in good fun. And I'm still friends with my anatomy lab partners. They were definitely my closest friends throughout medical school. But all but one of them have since graduated. And so, yeah, it's just kind of the ebbs and flows of friendship, of relationships, of life. And it kind of just makes me grateful for the time that I do get to spend with my friends now and how they did take time out of their day to celebrate my birthday with me. I also really appreciated the fact that this was one of those dinners that wasn't like we ate, we paid, we left. This was a dinner where we hung out, we lingered, like people got drinks, people got dessert. And there's something so nice and special about people who are willing to take time out of their day to hang out with you, spend time with you, celebrate your birthday. And so I did feel really, really special that, this is how my friends decided to spend their Tuesday evening. Especially because also one of my friends literally had a conference deadline the day after. And so I was kind of like, well, don't feel pressured to come. Like, this is low stress. Like, if you can't make it, you can't make it. But he made it. So yeah, that was the third highlight of my birthday day. I ended up coming home feeling just so happy and airy and light and grateful. But I will say the one damper on the day was when I got back, I looked at the receipt because I was in charge of, I don't know, divvying up the cost of the meal and everything. Again, very collegiate, I know. And that was when I realized I accidentally tipped twice. I don't know if this is the same in other big cities, but in New York, it's really normal for a restaurant, if you have a really big party, to already include the tip as part of the bill. Now, usually it's pretty obvious that, groups of more than 4 or more than 6 or more than 8, whatever that number is, gratuity is automatically included. Usually that's written pretty clearly somewhere, and I'm usually, noting that. But for some reason this time, I didn't quite catch it on the receipt. And then when they gave me the final bill, they actually asked for another 20% tip. There was a list of suggested tips there that basically asked me to add another 20% on top of the 20% that was already included. And so I called my best friend immediately. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, now everyone has to pay, some amount extra because of my mistake. And she was immediately like, don't worry about it, call them tomorrow, see what they say. But it actually ended up being completely fine because I called the restaurant. They were super sweet. I was like, I think I accidentally tipped twice. And they're like, what do you mean? Let me check. And so they did all of that checking and they told me actually. And this is funny. They were like, oh, we actually just assumed you made a mistake. So we didn't put what you put on the second slip into the system. I think it's super funny because that means they took one look at us and they were like, those kids don't look like they're in the tax bracket to tip 40%. And then so they just assumed the extra 20% was a mistake, which it really just meant that I was anxious for nothing. And honestly, it's sweet of them to, I guess, have made that assumption. But honestly, I think I just blew the whole thing out of proportion because my friend's reaction to everything was actually super understanding. They were kind of just like, oh, like we wouldn't expect you to figure it out by yourself. Just call them, see what happens. We'll figure it out together. I don't know. I don't know why I thought that they would react angrily because even thinking about how I would react if one of my friends did this and told me that this is what happened, I would have been like, oh my gosh, like, don't worry about it at all. Like, we'll figure it out together, which is, exactly how my friends had reacted. So, moving on to the last part of this episode, I guess wishes for 29. I don't really have wishes in particular. I guess I'm just grateful and happy and excited for the year ahead, which is saying a lot for me because if you know me in real life, I'm actually not the most positive person. And so for me to be able to say something like, I'm grateful and happy and excited is really quite uncharacteristic, I would say. And I'm not really going to talk too much about, my academic aspirations and things for this upcoming year because I literally just made a New Year's video, a reflections video about the 5th year of my MD PhD. But I will just say that I'm just looking forward to so many things up ahead in year 29 of my life. Like, I don't know. I guess I'll just leave with the fact that I think birthdays, at least for me, are days where I feel like I reflect on and think about the relationships I have and the people that I have in my life. And it's not in the sense of, who wishes me happy birthday, because I don't really care about that. But I really think it's just this one day where I get to pick who I want to surround myself with, who I want to spend time with. And I can do exactly that and be really selfish about who I want to invite to my birthday dinner. And I get to be the main character amongst all my friends for a couple hours. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Let me know down in the comments what some of your favorite birthday memories are, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye!